Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to the Saba Show. We are doing the round 21 predictions / preview, whatever you want to call it. Let's hop right into this week's Slater games. We start at GMHBA Stadium on Friday night for the clash between Geelong and GWS. Look, Geelong just keep getting it done week after week. Not convincingly most weeks, but getting the job done nonetheless. GWS, they lost last week. Look, they've had some really inconsistent form. They win some big games and then just cough it up the week later, dishing up a pretty poor performance. I'm not saying last week's performance was bad by any means, because they actually, held their own for a fair stretch of the game. They lost Jacob Hopper and Phil Davis and did well to compete without those two, but they're going to be two big losses for the week coming up. I think Geelong will get the job done here. They're a pretty formidable side at home. They haven't lost the game for what seems like forever. And look, GWS, you don't know what performance they're going to dish up week after week. So I'm just going to predict the Cats to win this one, probably by a modest margin of something like 20 points. Saturday afternoon, and we've got some interesting clashes. First up, Carlton Gold Coast. This is an interesting clash for both sides because we tend to, cough up opportunities to, move up the table. We did it a couple of weeks ago in North. I'm hoping it doesn't happen here again. The Suns are coming off a really dismal performance against the D's. They lost by about 100 points. Look, this could either be a blowout or it could be an upset. I mean, is it really an upset when it's two bottom sides going head to head? But look, I think, especially if we come out the way we did last week, we're going to flog this side. But if we come out against North, we're losing. So it's actually a toss-up. It's a very big 50-50. I don't know who's going to win this game. But look, I think just purely based on, the run of games, the Suns, look, they had it going. A couple weeks ago, they beat Richmond and GWS, in 2 weeks. And Carlton, we're looking a bit dire there. But look, we should get the job done here, based on recent performances for the Suns. And, it's going to be a pretty tough prediction between these two. Carlton, such a big gap between their best and their worst. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm just going to go Carlton based on recent form and their potential ceiling to perform. Next up, we have Richmond and North. This is going to be a very interesting clash as well, for numerous reasons. Richmond, as we said a couple weeks ago, it's no secret they are depleted. They're losing a lot of key players. Last week, they were running a pretty inexperienced side. A side that is pretty much a far cry from, their premiership sides of late in the last few years. North, they're coming off some positive performances in the last couple of weeks. They're starting to get wins. Had it not been for a Hawthorn upset last week, they would have had a chance to move up the table this week, out of that wooden spoon slot. But I honestly think that North are going to get the job done here. Richmond, the MCG isn't the fortress that it once was for the Tigers. And, they've had some pretty poor performances that they've chalked up in the last few weeks. Last week against Fremantle, managed 6 goals. And then again, they managed 8 goals against Geelong. The Fremantle game, you could attribute that to poor conversion, but regardless, they kicked 6 goals, 15. It doesn't change that. So, look, I think North just look like a better side at the moment. Their young players are playing some really good footy right now. Probably the best, some of the best for their careers. And, it's actually some good footy to watch. They were playing really shit at the start of the year, lacking confidence. Probably missing a few players as well. They've brought Robbie Tarrant back, and I believe he's contributed heavily to a bit of the success that North have experienced the last few weeks. I think North are going to get the job done here. fairly well against Richmond. I think Richmond are going to be shocked. I think they're going to come back late. But I think North are going to hold on. Then we have the showdown on Saturday night. This is going to be a cracking game. Hopefully it is. Anyway, although it could easily be like a fair smashing. The Crows, yeah, they were dealt with last week against the Dogs. Got what they deserved. Ultimately, I think we saw it coming. The Power, yeah, as we mentioned earlier, they did what they had to do against GWS, and did it very well. Their forward line looked really good. Kicked 15 goals for the game, so that was really nice to see for a Port side. A side that struggles against, a top 8 side. I mean, GWS weren't top 8, but they were right there. And that's easily a game they could have dropped, so fair play to them. Port, I think, are getting Robbie Gray back this week. I think he's a fitness test at the time of recording this. I don't know if he's coming back in or not. The Crows, last few weeks, it has not been great for them. They've been, disposed of, I guess you could say, in a few of these matches in the last month. And look, they've got to be very careful that this game doesn't become another one of those. I think Port will get the job done here. They tend to, dispose of these sides, 13th and under on the ladder. And Adelaide fall into that category. So I'm going to take Port to win this game, by probably about 5 or 6 goals. The other game on Saturday night, St Kilda plays Sydney at Marvel Stadium. Look, St Kilda, they came off a pretty poor loss against the Baggers. They needed to win that one for their finals hopes to stay alive. And, well, they didn't live up to the occasion. They've got a couple injuries. So Howard, Clark, and that could spell a few problems for them. They're going to have to rely on probably James Frawley or someone like that, to be that replacement. And I don't really have confidence that he's going to do an awesome job. He may do fairly well, but in saying that, he's pretty old. He's getting on, so I think Sydney will take advantage of that. I think if there's a weakness in the Saints side, it is probably that back line. But then again, at the other end, Max King, there's, a lot of weight on his shoulders. He needs to perform for that forward line to do well. Last week, he kicked 4. And, I think he had 4 of their first 5, or 3 of their first 4. So there was a lot of weight on him to keep the Saints in the game. And once he faded out, once he fizzled out, the Saints, they just couldn't keep up with the Blues. So, look, if they have to keep relying on him, they're not going to win too many more games. The Swans are scorching hot. I said in my predictions video, probably last week, for the rest of the season, that Sydney were going to go 4-0 in the last month of the year. And I think they're going to win this one to make it 2-0. Big game from them last week, and I expect them to, stand up and do the same thing this week, only, with a bit more breathing space, not the 1 goal. So I think they'll win by maybe 4 goals at least. Anyway, let's move on to Sunday games. Hawthorn play Collingwood at UTAS, and Hawthorn at this very venue last week put up a very strong performance against Brisbane until the last quarter, where, they just needed to instill a little bit of fear into their supporters, but they held on. So, very big win for them against the Brisbane side that haven't looked great in the last few weeks, ever since losing Hipwood, lacking that scoring prowess. But anyway, let's talk about Brisbane later. Collingwood, big win last week against West Coast. They, did an absolute number. I mean, they were playing traffic cones, but they did the job. They did the job. Some sides tend to, especially young sides, they tend to have the opportunity to do something, but not take it. But the Pies, they started like that a little bit, and then they just, they flowed, and they absolutely punched the Eagles on the scoreboard. So look, this game is shaping up as I think a closer one than people expect. Hawthorn, ever since they've brought in all their young guys, ever since they were hit with those injuries, you thought that they weren't going to be able to keep up, and they wouldn't stand a chance for the rest of the season in winning another game. But they drew to the Ds, and then they beat the Lions. So very positive signs by them. look, I think this is going to be very close, but I think Collingwood are just going to do it. They looked very good last week. I don't think what the Hawks did last week was sustainable, and if they show something similar, I don't think it's going to last the entire game, and the Pies will run over the top. So I believe that the Pies will win this, despite both sides fielding pretty young sides. All right, and now to the 3:20 game on Sunday. This is shaping as an awesome game to watch. Essendon have the Sunday Arvo time slot again against the Bulldogs, and I think we could expect something similar to their matchup against Sydney last week. Where both teams, kicked 100 points. This is a much smaller ground, so I think you're going to see a lot of scores. The Dogs, I haven't really watched them that much the last couple of weeks, but they just, look so cohesive. They're just getting the job done without even trying, really. They're big players. It's just a really well spread effort. No one has to do anything too strenuous, unless they fall behind in the latter stages. I mean, against the D's the other week, Bontempelli really was the difference maker. He was that one person that had to put, the whole team on his back to get the team over the line. But look, I think this is going to be a cracking match. It's huge for Essendon. It's huge for all the sides from like 9th to 13th, this week, because they're all really tough matchups for them, except maybe Carlton's game. But look, I think the Dogs are just going to be too good again. I said this with the Sydney game last week for Essendon. I thought that Sydney are just too scorching hot for the Bombers to win this game, and it showed last week. So I think the Dogs, the same thing sort of applies with them. They've been, on a bit of a tear the last few weeks. So I think that's going to carry over into this match. I think it's going to be tight again. I think there's going to be a lot of similarities to the Essendon-Sydney game last week, but I think the Dogs will hold on for maybe a 2-goal win. Freo Brisbane at Optus, and Freo surprised me last week. I thought Richmond were going to win, but I must have overestimated Richmond. Fremantle, Brayshaw and Chera went nuts. This was a huge team win for the Dockers. They didn't do it very convincingly. Probably a frustrating first half to watch for many supporters, both at the ground and on TV, for both sides. But yeah, huge win by them last week. I mean, for Brisbane supporters, they would have been absolutely appalled at what they dished up last week against the Hawks. Just all their big players went missing. Their forward line did not look dangerous. I mean, the only positive, I think this was mentioned in an AFL article, Nakai Cockatoo was probably the biggest positive out of the day. He kicked a goal and he didn't get injured. So take it for what you will, but Brisbane, look, they've been a bit iffy the last month. This is a really interesting game now. I thought Freo weren't going to win another game, but look, if Brayshaw and Chera come out doing what they did last week again, then Brisbane could be in some trouble. But then again, Brisbane have a pretty decent midfield of their own. I'm going to say Brisbane. Just. It's going to be a very tight game. I was for a moment swerving towards Fremantle, purely because of how well they played last week. And Brisbane, I just think they've got too much class to get over the line. They've got too many good players in that side to, lose another one. So I think, their midfielders are going to combine for like half their goals. And that's going to be what's going to propel them over the line. But yeah, I think Fremantle are going to put in a very promising performance here, given all their injuries. But then again, I would not be surprised if the young guys stand up once again. Sarong, Brayshaw, Chera, all those guys. I think this is going to be a very awesome game. Are we saving the best till last? West Coast play Melbourne on Monday night at 8:10. Bit of a late one for Victorians and whatnot. Look, I think the D's, this is going to be a cakewalk for Melbourne if West Coast play like they did last week. I think West Coast, they do have, they've got a lot of talent. This is a premiership team. There's a lot of players on this team that played in that 2018 flag. I mean, there's still a lot of newer guys, but in saying that, you know, they couldn't dish up what they did last week, especially when now their spot's up for grabs. They only have 10 wins. 10 wins isn't going to get you in finals. So they've got to win 1, 2 at least of their last 3 games. I don't think it's going to come here. The D's just looked too damn good. They destroyed a side in Gold Coast that played very similar to how West Coast did last week. No pressure, couldn't get their hands on the football, all that jazz. So look, I think the D's are just going to teach the Eagles a lesson. Eagles, I think, will come out firing a bit early, but the D's, yeah, they're just going to show their dominance. They're too good a football side. They've shown it. They beat good sides. They take care of the sides that, you know, aren't so strong. And the West Coast Eagles are a bit of a shadow of their former self. So I think the D's are going to get the job done pretty convincingly in this match to conclude the round. And that is all for the predictions for this week. If you enjoyed this, you know, drop a like, subscribe. Simple. Anyway, it has been a pleasure. It always is a pleasure. But I will see you for Monday for our round 21 recap. See you then. Peace out.